Welcome to the season finale of the Rugby Show live here on finalwhistle.ie. And as always, we've an absolutely packed show. We've pitch-side reaction from the Division 1A final between Clontarf and Terenure College. And I'll also be joined by Shannon, Director of Rugby, Pat Brown, Blackrock Assistant Coach Stanley McDowell, and Captain Brian Colclough. And joining me as well will be Enniscorthy's Timmy Morrissey. Ciaron Noble will also be on to discuss all of the weekend's action and to look back on a very successful AIL season. It was an entertaining clash at the Aviva Stadium when Clontarf playing Terenure College, and they survived a late comeback to beat Terenure 29 points to 23. I was joined pitchside by Clontarf captain Matt Darcy.
Matt, great way to cap off a fantastic season. How can you reflect on the season as a whole?
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, obviously it was well noted we had a pretty good league campaign, but you kind of have to start all over again in a cup scenario like this. It was very, very tight with Terenure. They could have gone either way. They gave us a really good game, so we're just delighted to get over the line, really.
And what was your message kind of to the lads, especially in that last 10 minutes when it got very close? What were you kind of trying to do as a team on the pitch?
I think we've just been saying since the semi-final, this is where we want to be, this is what we've asked for, so there's no point in getting too nervous, right? Like last 10 minutes of a final leading, that's where you want to be, so we just put our hand up. A lot of the bench came on really well, and it's just about our next job. What can we do to impact the game? And lads came up with big plays, some big tackles, a big turnover there at the end, so that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah, and especially that front row of yours, it's great for try scoring, and Dylan in particular, but also with Ben getting on the score sheet today. How vital are they to have big forwards who can make massive carries as well as being instrumental at the breakdown?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like the front five this year have been unbelievable all year, and we've got like a real strength and depth there, and the guys are really young. I mean, Ben Griff, he's only about 19. It's unbelievable. He's put in a lot of work with Aaron Dundon this year, a front row coach, and he's just been working really hard, and he's improved so much, so he deserves everything he got today.
And Fiona Gilbert has come up through the junior ranks and the youth ranks. How common is that now with that team, that you're growing your own players?
Yeah, I think it's really common. Obviously, myself, my twin brother Adrian and Cathal O'Flynn all played in Clontarf since we were 6 years of age. Yeah. Fiona's the same, so there's a good few lads there coming through. And obviously, you have to, at this level, you have to blend that with some people who are brought in or have come in. But I mean, the guys like Tony Ryan, he's originally from Enniscorthy, but he's in Clontarf for the last 10 years and just really committed to the club, a really committed club guy, and that's the kind of people you want to bring in.
I also spoke to Clontarf coach Andy Wood.
So, great result on the day. How can you reflect on that?
Yeah, just reflect with, obviously relief. It's been a while, it's been 3 years since I've been in anyone's been in a final, so just delighted to come out the right side of it, I thought it was a well-matched final, and I think just that lead we got just at the start of the second half sort of just stood to us, because we had to withstand, quite an enormous amount of pressure, so credit to Terenure, but credit to our lads for managing to ride it out and get there in the end,
And it was a great try from Dylan Donnellan. That's try number 19 for the year. How vital has he been towards your side?
Look, it's plain to see. I think when we have a set-piece platform, he'll say it himself, but he commands that platform, so and obviously sets high standards around it, so look, he's a quality player. There's quality players littered across the team, and a lot of leaders amongst it, and they've created and maintained their own standards. So it's credit to the players. I think they've been phenomenal this year, and to have the record at the end of 19 out of 20 games, including today. It's credit to them and the standards they've managed to maintain since day one.
Matt Darcy's still a pillar of Clontarf, yeah?
100%. Matty, as you know, he's been sensational for probably 10 years now. 10 years at the AL at the top level, and he keeps delivering, and his leadership this year, and just prior to COVID when he was named captain again, he's been phenomenal. I think it's down to his qualities, his twin Ado's qualities. It's just connected the whole group, and I think that's I mentioned standards before, but I think that's helped us just to maintain a really positive momentum when we've had some dark moments, and helped us come out the other side.
Yeah, and you've young guys like Fionn Gilbert there coming through now.
Big Fionn. I thought he was sensational, and he has been. He's grown into himself this season, and big man, good round the set piece, and he's starting to really develop into a good player, both sides of the ball,
And you say you have to lose one to win one. I remember you lost to Cork Con here a number of years ago in the final. You were under pressure there in the last 5 minutes or so in this game. Do you think those previous finals that you played in were of huge benefit to you? You had to play smart rugby.
Yeah, no, look, I think that would have more come from the season we've had rather than looking back over our shoulders to 2019 or even earlier. It's been frustrating not to win more than we have, but that means, at moments like this we cherish them, and to be honest, it's off the back of all the work that all our background staff and Pat McDowell, the manager, and all the backroom staff, everyone's done. It's got us to this moment, and then it was up to the players on the day to deliver. So I don't think we had too many ghosts from finals past. I think it was the momentum we got and generated today was from the standards that the group on the park today have built up over the season.
Here's reaction from Terenure coach Sean Skehan.
We struggled a little bit, both on our ball, probably weren't as accurate as we needed to be on our rails, or when first arriving, second arriving guy to the ball carrier, and then defensively, we probably went in after a few and gave away one, particularly a big one when we got off our feet and got isolated, and Tarf capitalised on those really well. Connor kicked really well. They were really good tactically, and then they went to the corner then and probably squeezed us a bit, wore us out a bit, and they managed to get a bit of scoreboard pressure on us. Obviously went to 29-13, you're battling to get back into it, or 29-16, and we managed to, and then it was probably just that scrum stands at the end. You've probably got to come away with a score there, and credit to Tarf, they changed up their props and they managed to bat us back a little bit, and we probably got just a little bit tetchy and jumped off the base to try and score, trying to force it, and look, they're the margins sometimes,
You must be very pleased with the character your team showed.
Yeah.
They stuck in there and they fought to the end, and you're right, the scrum at the end was huge. You
Definitely.
score there, you've got a great chance.
Definitely. Look, I don't think anybody would discount the character of the lads. They've been resilient all year. They'll always be in the fight of the game. It's just at this level, you've got to execute in those moments that you have, and we had enough opportunity, even with our discipline not being as good as it can be and Tarf being as good as they are. I still think we had some opportunities to do it, and we just couldn't. And it's really unfortunate, but I have to say full credit to Clontarf. They've been the form team all season. I think that's 16 games in a row they've won. They've only lost one game all season. I take my hat off to them. They're phenomenal representation of the league, and well done to Andy and the staff and all the players. You can't begrudge them today. Deserving champions, and I hope they enjoy the success of it.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
All this stand to turn you are going forward now.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, we haven't been in the AIL final. I think somebody said to me yesterday it was 2011 since any team bar Tarf, Lansdowne and Con had been in a final, so those three lads, they've been the big three the last decade or so, and they've had a stranglehold on it, and we've broken that. Not enough today, but we don't plan on leaving anytime soon. We want to contend here perennially, and I think we have the roster and the infrastructure in the club to do that. So look, disappointed, obviously you're here, you want to get it done, but I think the future of the club is bright, and we're very excited about the opportunities we'll get to go against Tarf again, and Lansdowne and Con and all the teams in the division. So look, it's hard to look at it that way now, but I feel we'll be back again, and it certainly won't be. I think the club's been going for 82 years. I don't think it'll be another 82 years by the time we're back.
I was also joined by Clontarf try scorer and hooker Dylan Donnellan.
Dylan, what a way to cap off the season. Can you try sum it up for me?
Look, you do everything all year long to try to lift that cup, and look, it doesn't happen all that often, but today's a special one. It goes down in the memory bank. It's a big day. It's a great day.
Yeah, and we spoke on the podcast a couple of weeks ago about your try scoring form, but you've only seemed to get better and better at that. And how happy are you with your performance and obviously getting the score on the Aviva?
Look, it's lovely. It's a nice touch, but like I said, you'd swap everything for lifting the cup. You'd give them all away. You'd never touch the ball if it meant lifting the cup at the end of the year, and I just happened to be the guy that fell over the line for quite a lot of them. But delighted. And
then when Terenure's kind of brought their replacements on in the game, and especially with Boomer as well, he was fantastic. What was the message on the pitch, trying to kind of keep it compact?
Yeah, look, I mean, Terenure fought the whole game through, and like you said, when they brought the lads on, they added that freshness, they added tempo, and they dug themselves out of a bit of a hole and kind of got themselves right back into it. We just tried to focus on what we were doing. Like, we gave them a lot of ball. We were trying to focus on just playing in the right parts of the pitch, but they didn't make it easy. It was trying to focus on playing on the right parts of the pitch and just play our game, do what we're good at.
Yeah. And then plans for tonight then? A few shandies, I suppose?
Filling that cup to the brim and drinking the whole thing. Look, we're going to go back to the club now. It's going to be wedge, and it's going to be brilliant. And we'll probably keep going for about a week.
Love it. Well,
Shannon sealed promotion back to Division 1A of the Energy All-Ireland League after a 30-15 win over Naas at the weekend. And joining me again this weekend is Director of Rugby, Pat Brown. Pat, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Luke.
And congratulations, what a fantastic win it was at the weekend. And What were your thoughts kind of immediately after the game?
Huge relief. But then it kind of, when you see the crowds that were there, we spent so much time on the pitch afterwards. Normally, you know, it's something that we kind of brought in this year where, you know, when we win, we sing the aisle where possible on the pitch with the supporters because they've been such a big part of it. There are times though when, you know, really close match or, you know, other teams are really suffering, you don't want to be rubbing their face in it. We do it in the dressing room. But on Saturday, it was just such a huge outpouring of emotion for everybody involved. There was over 2,000 people at the game. The majority of them stayed. You can see it in the videos. They sang the aisle. They joined in the celebrations. They stayed around talking afterwards. It was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Real AIL day.
Yeah, and for anyone who hasn't seen the video, you have to go to Shannon's Twitter page and check it out because it really is. It's stuff that the dreams are made of, and I was almost jealous myself watching that I wasn't involved. But it looked fantastic. And then I think in a rugby point of view, how impressed have you been with how the side has played, the style of rugby you've played this season?
Yeah, so when Pat and Stephen came on board, and I've said it before, we always said to them was be competitive. So we had a really good pack. We knew that. Actually, we have kind of like 20 forwards that are interchangeable and don't weaken the squad, no matter who you put out. And our backs, and we said our backs are so young. We just said express yourselves. And, you know, Pat's looked at, and Stephen have looked at the game plan in terms of, you know, where are our strengths, let's play for our strengths. There was a bedding in period at the start, and you'd see that some of the games where, you know, our attack was really good. I mean, I think we've the best points difference in 1B. We've scored more than anyone. We've conceded fewer, but we were conceding at critical times. So we were conceding in injury time and letting games slip. And look, we never panicked because, you know, it's a 3-year plan that we're looking at. Year one was about consolidation. We've actually gone ahead of that. We've gotten promoted. Fantastic. But we knew that this was going to happen. And I think it's no surprise from us anyway that there was a run from the Highfield game before Christmas where we lost once all the way to the end of the season. So, I mean, that's down to the hard work that was put in, understanding everyone's roles. And I think that's where the difference was at the start of the season. It's just that bedding in period, going from one system for a lot of the squad into a new system and just trying to get stuff right, moves right, calls right, etc.
And then I suppose looking back, do you think that result against Highfield was a real big moment for you in the season where you were like, we can go on to achieve promotion, and maybe that was the boost that you needed to hit form?
I think people are forgetting and getting caught up in you know, just this season. But if you think back to when COVID happened, we were in the playoff positions. We were really strong. We were flying it with the nucleus of that squad. And I think the belief has always been there. I think the catalyst for them was actually the Malone match up north when we went up because of Munster and the COVID situation. We had 20s guys. There was Pat tells a great story. Pat O'Connor tells a great story of one of the 20s was brought along to be a travelling reserve, and he was so excited. And then Pat said to him in the warm up, "Look, you know, Charlie Carnby's after getting a knock. You're on the bench." He was like, "Oh my God, I'm not ready for this." He's absolutely ready for it. And then 5 minutes into the match, Kelvin Brown gets injured, and he's straight onto the pitch to make his debut at like 19. And so that kind of, I think, with that team, they went up. They got a bonus point win up there, and it was from that moment on, it was just right. Let's go do this. And I think the players had a conversation themselves that, you know, they've been together for so long. As I've said it before, like the majority of the team are like 25-year-old men. They know that they have a fixed time together, but they honestly believe that there's a 1A title within them. And you have to think like that. You can't just go up there to take part. You have to want to go up to dominate.
And that leads into really my next question about Division 1A next season. And in your eyes, what would make it a successful campaign? And do you think you can really push them big sides all the way?
Okay, so the last time we went up at Christmas, we were in second. But then we had a number of injuries to key players. And I think there was a sense of the other teams finding us out as well and knowing in the reverse fixtures what to do to stop us from playing. And, you know, so results didn't go our way. And momentum is everything in the IL, positive or negative. Unfortunately, we were on a bit of a slide, and so it affected us. So I think this time out, the number one thing is to increase the size of our squad. So we have a really good under-20s team with a lot of players coming through from that. and we've already identified other guys that we want to add to the squad. So it's about having a squad that can compete week after week after week. It's attritional. It's so hard. I mean, you saw the intense nature of the game on Sunday. A fantastic final between Clontarf and Terenure. And if you were ever in any doubt about the standard you need to reach, there it is. But we know what's ahead of us. You know, we've been there, we've done it. And the whole reason behind having Pat O'Connor, Stephen Keogh there is around their ability to develop players. They can get inside their heads. You know, their skill levels won't be found wanting. But it's the mental part. And I think that's the part that will be different this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pat, it's been fantastic having you on once again. Thanks so much for taking the time to come talk to us.
Thanks, Luke. Anytime. Cheers.
Blackrock College secured promotion to Division 2A after a fantastic win over Greystones at the weekend. And rejoining me on the show this weekend is assistant coach Stanley McDowell and captain Brian Colclough. Lads, welcome to the show.
You're welcome. Glad to be
Cheers. And what a fantastic win it was at the weekend. And Brian, I'll go to you. What was your immediate reaction kind of after the final whistle and when Matthew went over for that late try?
Probably just pure elation, relief. Just kind of lots of things just going through your mind, but just pure relief. Second half, it was a whirlwind of emotion. So just to finish in that way was pretty special.
It really was. And Stanley, from a coach's point of view and being on the sideline, how proud were you of the lads for the fight that they showed in that second half?
Yeah, it really, when you looked at it at half time, and then early in the second half, it goes to 20 points to 3. You know, I would have had my doubts. I'm sure the players at moments had their doubts. But yeah, the way they came back into it, and obviously the dramatic nature of the victory at the end just made it a very special day.
And then Brian, like Stanley was saying there, you found yourself 23 down with about 25 minutes to go. And what was the feeling amongst the players that were on the pitch? Obviously, you still would have believed that you could get back into it, but was there more going on in the pitch? And what was your role really as a captain when you did fall 17 points behind?
Yeah, no, there was a couple of moments of panic and kind of, geez, we've come all this way and this is how we're going to perform, because we weren't really happy at all with the first kind of 50 minutes. But there was one or two big moments from a couple of individuals that sort of got us on our way. And once we got one, there's always the feeling that once it's back to a 2-score game that we're bang in it. We've done it so many times. So that was just, once we got the first one, that was the key. And then you could feel the sort of feeling amongst everyone kind of grew 2 feet once the first one went in.
Yeah, and then Stanley, I suppose, was there much going on the sideline? Was there a lot of tactical changes that you wanted to make and that you made when you did find yourself behind, or was it kind of stick to your guns and stick to the game plan?
I touched on it last week. We have been incredibly fortunate to get to the point of being in the final where we are, because we had a small group of players, and that small group of players meant that I suppose we weren't able to make as many rolling substitutions as other teams have throughout the league, and including the final on Saturday. But we did make a couple of changes. There was always been a plan to make a couple of changes around that 10-minute mark in, which we did, and it had some real impact in particular in the forwards. So I'm with Brian on this. You know, there was parts of that the early 50 minutes where we thought, my goodness, what have we got to do to get back into the game? And there was a couple of moments, a couple of individuals, I suppose, really put their hand up and got the scoreline running in our favour again.
And then, Brian, if I can bring your mind back to just before the semi-finals, and perhaps Blackrock College did find themselves with the most difficult games to play, with obviously an away trip to Belfast Harlequins and then an away trip to Dr. Hickey Park for the final. And you lost away to Belfast Harlequins and Greystones previously in the season. And I suppose, does that ever creep into the back of your mind, knowing that you've obviously a tough game coming up, but knowing that you have lost it already this season, or were you kind of going there on an equal playing field?
No, I think Yeah, like I think it can work both ways. And I think it focused the mind maybe a little bit, and even the last game of the season, the regular season, losing up in Galway, which meant we were away for the two games, kind of probably just focused the mind even more for that Belfast one to make sure we're really on it. Um, and then going back to Greystones, you feel like you're almost righting a few wrongs, particularly against Belfast because we were done in the last minute twice, and then going away to Greystones, we really didn't turn up that day. We had a lot of injuries when we played them away from home, and they put a bit of a cricket score on us. So it was more of that kind of mental thing in the back of your head that you don't want that to happen again. So yeah, no, it probably in hindsight worked to our advantage a little bit, but not ideal.
And then Stanley, I suppose it could be too early to talk about it, but in terms of next season, where do you see the side kind of going? It's a very competitive league. Queen's University be in it again, Ballymena, Cashel. Like, what would make a successful season next year? And do you think you can really go ahead and push for a second and consecutive promotion?
Yeah, it will absolutely be the plan, and we'll get together as a group of the players once we reconvene, and we'll set out some goals, and we'll let them drive that as we did for this season, of course. I'll definitely enjoy visiting Eden Park again, my old senior club from the north as well. But yes, I think we can go up there and look to be successful. Obviously, there'll be a change in the pace of the game, absolutely. So how we prepare for that will have to change slightly. A big part of what we do between now and the start of the new season will really revolve around recruitment. Which there's a big need for that, regardless of whether we got promoted or not. Because we just need more numbers coming into the club to sustain the season, because we'll not get as lucky again as we did this year with our playing numbers. So yeah, recruitment's a really big part of it now, and that's well down the road and ongoing. But yeah, very excited to get into it, and obviously we'll want the challenge and be competitive in every game, home or away.
And then Brian, kind of similar to what I said to Stanley there, what would make it a good season for you, and what are your personal goals kind of going into Division 2A?
Yeah, I think the aim and goal has to be to go up again. Like there's, assuming it goes back to a regular season, there's 4 spots, so to get yourself into a playoff, and then as we saw the last few weeks, it's playoff rugby. So, people playing rugby, amateur rugby, you got to look at things like that to motivate you, and there's no reason why you can't. We're in a good, strong position at the moment because we've just got promoted, so we might be an attractive proposition for recruitment, like Stan mentioned. So, yeah, there's no reason. I haven't seen much of 2A this year. I've seen the results, but I haven't seen much of the league. But I don't see there's any reason why we can't make a push to try go up again.
Week, where would it rank kind of amongst your career highlights if you did get promotion? And in terms of kind of how you did it at the weekend, it must be massive for you, but where does it rank kind of personally in your achievements? Brian, sorry
to me. Yeah, it tops the lot. We touched kind of earlier on, it's been a barren few years in the club, and I've won a seconds tournament or a seconds league in the club, but haven't won anything else. So it tops the lot, and being able to do it with a great bunch of guys probably makes it even more special. But yeah, hopefully we can use it as an incentive to keep on bringing those days back to the club and keep on building, really.
Definitely. So to maybe wrap things up here, we're going to end it with a bit of a quick fire round. And obviously the two of you played with many players in your career. And so if I was to ask you, Stanley, the best passer you've ever played with, who would you say to me?
Sorry, I missed that question. What was that?
The best passer of the ball that you've ever played with.
Best passer of the ball would definitely be David Humphreys.
And then Brian, for you, best passer?
Probably Peter Quirk, number 12.
And then Brian, I'll go to you then first for this one. Kicker?
Oof. Best kicker of all. I'll give Daniel Barney the honour of that, just in case the off chance he's listening.
And then Stanley, for yourself, then best kicker.
That's an easy one, Simon Mason. I don't know whether he still holds a record for the highest percentage completion in the Heineken Cup, but he would have held it up to very recently. That year we won it, he was just phenomenal. He couldn't miss.
And then Stanley, I'll go to you then for this one. Best actor that you played with.
Johnny Bell, without a shadow of a doubt. He was a great decision maker, great footballer, but defence and tackle completion, he was just outstanding. At 12 first there, he played anywhere. He played in the back and the wing for Ireland, but for us, and the times I played with him when he was 12, he was just a demon.
And then for yourself, Brian, best actor you played with.
Few good ones in the forward. Sam Cook, Joe Lambrook spring to mind, but probably pound for pound, Davy Rowan. Small guy, but well able to pack a punch.
And Brian, obviously you're the captain now, but in terms of other leaders that you've played with, is there anyone that stands out as maybe the best leader of the lads?
Played a few games with Paul Ryan, so I was very impressed with him. Owen Cullen, very good leader. They'd probably be the two main ones.
And then Stanley, for you, best leader.
Colin in the back row was his vice captain for this year. Our hooker Liam McMahon, from the way he played and just being that senior voice on the field was outstanding. There's another number of characters I could call on. Brian was by far and away the voice that they all lean to, and an inspiration for them on and off the field. And he certainly was the clear and only candidate force for this year. And we'll be having conversations with him again at some point about the new season, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Stan, Brian, it's been fantastic having you on the Rugby Show, and congratulations again for that fantastic victory over Greystones, and I wish you all the best now for next season.
Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
We are now joined by Enniscorthy's Timmy Morrissey. Timmy, welcome to the Rugby Show.
Hi, Luke. Thanks for having me.
And what a fantastic weekend it was for Enniscorthy, a 41-14 win over Skerries, and how happy are you with that result?
Delighted, yeah. It was, I suppose, I haven't played up there a long time now, and it was one of my biggest days there. I think the whole thing of having a home final as well is something you don't experience a lot. So, yeah, really delighted. And I think after the few years of COVID we've had, it was really good for the club, like even non-players, just community as well. It was really good for everyone. So everyone's delighted up there.
Yeah, and you touched on it there about that home advantage, and how vital and critical was it to have that backing of the town all around you there when the game kicked off?
That was great. Like, we had huge support up there. We always have huge support no matter where we go, but at home it's obviously it's your own pitch as well, and we would have a good record there. So it was a big advantage to us, I suppose. We wouldn't have liked to have been having to play away for it, so it was a good one for us.
Yeah, and obviously a very long season and a lot of work gone into it, especially with all the COVID written off seasons before and stuff. But I was wondering, when did you realise promotion was actually achievable?
I suppose our first season in AIL, we had kind of set ourselves a target of going for top four, and then we realised we could maybe achieve that before the season got called off with COVID, and we kind of wanted to hit the ground running where we left off then this season. So we kind of, we were aiming for it again. We weren't going to sell ourselves short. We knew we were able. It was the same teams in the league, so we had our sights set on it.
Yeah, and I think that there's really been a rapid surge in the club since winning that Towns Cup. And how much have Enniscorthy improved since that Towns Cup win? And did that really give you the boost to go on and to be doing the stuff that you've done now?
Yeah, like as I said, I've been playing a good few years now, and I've been lucky to be part of a lot of those teams that have won Towns Cups, All Ireland Cups, a couple of league titles as well before we got promoted. And there has really been a winning attitude. which I think you go out in the games and you expect more out of yourself then. So we are always expecting the best from ourselves. Like even our last season in the Leinster League, I can remember we'd come in after winning a game and we mightn't have got a bonus point and it'd be like we lost, because it was just a mentality that was after getting into the team, because we were aiming for the best and we knew we were good enough to get there. So yeah, it really has pushed us on and got us where we are now.
And now promotion to Division 2B, and it's an absolutely stacked division. That, and it was one of the most competitive probably in all of the AIL last season. So what are kind of decides goals for next season, and what would make it a successful year?
I suppose like we did very well in 2C this year, and even our first year in it we did very well in it. So like we're not going to be, I don't think we're going to be worried about being bottom of the table. I think we'd probably, our first year in it, we'd be hoping to hold our own around the middle of the table, I suppose. But I mean, we've definitely got plenty of talent there, and we've got so much youth coming through into the team in the last couple of years as well. So it's just going to keep pushing everything on.
And how important is it to have them young lads in around the team and to be blooding them kind of at the right stages?
Oh, it's massive. Like we've a right group of them there this year, and even you can see just even the social side of things they've brought on to another level. And I suppose after COVID, I suppose everyone might need a bit of that. But no, they're definitely they're kind of, usually it's the older fellas driving things on, but the young lads are as well. So it's great to see. And you know, for older lads like myself, it's great to see them young lads pushing us on as well.
Yeah, it really is. And you touched on the social side of things there. How were all the celebrations after the final?
Oh, they were brilliant. The club on Saturday night was brilliant. It's the best I've ever seen it up there. And even the dressing room, we were in the dressing room for an hour and a half after the game. Like it was unreal. But I think, as I said, like after the couple of years of COVID that people have had, even not just with rugby and stuff, but you know, the social side of things, it was great for everyone to get out again and have a night out like that. And you know, a lot of faces we haven't seen around for a few years up there as well, which was great to see too. So I think it's not just wasn't good for the club, like it was good for the town and good for the community here.
Yeah, and a massive win it was. And I think finally we'll just do a bit of a quick fire round with you, Timmy. So if I was to say to you the best passer that you've played with, who would you say to me?
Wouldn't be for passing darts, but I'd say Daniel Pym, because he'll make a hole out of nowhere and put you through it. Like he's very deceptive like that.
Yeah, best tackler.
I'll go with Niall Parker, who's playing with us this year. Niall's one of the younger lads coming through now, but he's thrown himself around plenty, so it'll be him.
Best kicker.
I'd have to go with Ivan Poole. Couldn't look past him.
And then finally, best leader that you've played with, or best captain.
We've had a lot of them over the last few years, I suppose. Best leader we've had, I suppose, it'll probably be between Tomas, who we have now, or Tom Ryan when he was captain a few years ago as well. They were two lads like that anybody would follow into a battle, you know.
Yeah. Timmy, it's been brilliant having you on, and congratulations again on promotion to Division 2B.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Luke.
With the AIL season just finished, I'm joined once again by Ciaron Noble to take a look at the final weekend of fixtures in the All-Ireland League. Ciaron, welcome back.
I feel like this is an end of semester kind of reflection essay type thing we're doing here.
It really is. It really is. But what a set of fixtures we have to look at. We'll start off with 1A, the big one, and Clontarf, crown champions, 29-23 win over Terenure. And I know you were at the game. What did you think of it?
I think, yeah, like you can't really begrudge Clontarf like winning it, to be honest. They were probably the best team in the league. I think everyone would agree that. Terenure were a very close second, in fairness to them. So I think the two best teams did contest the final, which was good. I think Terenure started really well, started on the front foot. But Clontarf, for me, seemed so patient on the ball, especially in that first half. They just went through the phases and went through with the forwards. Were good up front in the front row, and then the back row were outstanding, like Daly and Ryan and Darcy. Like, you know, they were all class. So I think Clontarf showed a real patience that actually it frustrated Terenure to the point where they conceded those penalties. I think Terenure got a bit frustrated and they let Clontarf kind of get that first half lead. And Clontarf basically dominated possession for the later part of that first half, so they deserved the lead. And then I remember saying to you at the start of the second half, or 8 minutes into the second half rather, when they kicked to the corner and it was just a few meters away from the try line, I said, I think there's a sense of inevitability about this. Like, you just knew what was going to happen. And when Dylan Donnellan went over, I was like, that's probably it, to be fair. But credit to Terenure, they came back into it. They started to throw the ball around, which is what they're good at. Started to play at a real speed and pace. They came back into it. Benny got a try. Then they had that scrum kind of phase towards the end of the game. And big credit to Clontarf, to be fair, and Ivan Soroka for coming back on. And that big scrum, massive moment for him, like the season he's been through, with Clontarf, and for personal reasons, with everything that's happened in Ukraine. Like, it was a massive moment for him, the big scrum, and it was very fitting, I thought, really, for the whole occasion, that it was him that kind of, and then Dylan Donnellan at the end got over to spoil Terenure's last attack. So yeah, Clontarf deserved it in the grand scheme of things, but I think Terenure were very, very good this year. That's the furthest they've ever been as a club, and I think they will be back around the top 4 next year.
Yeah, and I'd hope so, because I think when I was watching it anyway, it was a real case of two different play styles. And Terenure, they wanted that quick ball off the back of the rucks or whatever breakdown. I think Clontarf were very good at using their experience to slow the game down. And I suppose in the tactical battle of that, do you think Terenure got it right, or were they maybe sucked into Clontarf's game plan a bit?
I think they just maybe got frustrated, and just kind of did things they wouldn't usually do. Like, I think Skehan said that afterwards, they just kind of made mistakes that maybe they wouldn't usually make. Maybe that's the occasion, like that's their first time, whereas Clontarf have had the luxury of being there before. So maybe that makes a difference. But, I think Clontarf are just so good, and they're good at pretty much every facet of the game. It's hard. Like, Terenure probably any other year were probably the best team in the AIL, but Clontarf were so good in the standard bearers this year, only losing once in 20 games, that you kind of have to say Terenure were just unlucky that they came up against Clontarf and the year Clontarf have had. Any other year, Terenure might have been able to do it. But I think it was a really entertaining final. And to be fair, I've done a lot of articles this year, different games, and I've been on the show. And Justin Middleton has been massive, talking about the quality of the AIL, and he's been doing the highlights videos of his commentary and showing people like what the AIL is like every week. But I was so happy to read the tweets after the game and the positive feedback from everybody that kind of maybe wouldn't watch the AIL on a weekly basis. And I think it showed that there's a real appetite for AIL every week, whether that be one game a week that the RFU stream or a streaming company streams. Like, I have no problem in saying this, that I think the AIL is much more entertaining than the URC. I really do. I think it's a much better watch. It's better value for money. Like, the URC, unless it's like Leinster against Munster or Leinster against Ulster or Ulster Munster, a lot of the time it's runaway victories. Now, I know the South Africans beat Leinster at the weekend, but Leinster sent a really weakened team to South Africa, and they could have got the job done, to be fair. So, like, what I mean is the AIL is very competitive, very enjoyable to watch. It's grassroots rugby, and that's it's without the AIL, you wouldn't get to like the pro game. So I think it definitely deserves more coverage, and I think Sunday really showed that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you any more there. But then moving down to the relegation playoff for Division 1A, and Ballynahinch, they secured their 1A status after a 31-17 victory over UCC. And I think over the course of the season, they did look like maybe the two poorest sides, but I think Hinch, they did maybe let a lot of people down and where they thought that they were going to finish this campaign. And do you think that they earned that right to finish and to stay in 1A?
Yeah, I'd say they did, to be honest. They were just probably slightly better than UCC. To be fair, 4 or 5 games in the season, you kind of got a clear idea that they were the two teams that were going to be there, and it didn't really change all that much, throughout the season. I did think Ballynahinch were going to do it and UCC would probably go down, but it's just one of those things, really. Both teams probably gave it their best shot over the 2 legs, and Ballynahinch just came out on the right side of it. UCC are going down to a very, very competitive 1B. I think 1B will be the most competitive league next season. It was probably the most competitive league this season, but I think it will be again next season. So I don't know if UCC will be back up anytime soon, to be honest. But yeah, credit to Ballinhinch and well done to them.
Yeah, and then moving down to 1B, and what a stacked league we're going to have next year with the likes of Wesley. You have Nace, and even I think a couple of people that are coming up, like Buccaneers coming up. They're well able to cause an upset, and it's going to be a great watch anyway. But Shannon obviously secured promotion to Division 1A after 30-15 win over Nace, who the week before shocked everyone by beating Wesley, who were the favourites.
Yeah, to be honest, my uncle's over in Australia, and he was asking me like who was like tipping to win those semi-finals, and I said if there was one team I'd say definitely are going to win, it would be Wesley. So I was pretty shocked, to be fair. But Shannon, I said this like I think 2 months ago when Shannon started to play really well, that I thought it was going to be a Shannon Wesley final, and I thought maybe Shannon could win the whole thing in the end. I think Jake Flannery made a massive difference for Shannon, to be honest. His Munster quality really shone through in that last few games of the season. He's a very good player. For Wesley, though, I feel really, really bad for them. It's probably like they were probably the informed team across between them and Clontarf. They were probably, and Queens maybe. They were like the informed team in the AIL, and it's really tough for them losing, I think, only one game in the normal league season against Highfield early on. To run away with it and then kind of lose in a very tight game like that against Nace, it's very tough for them. And to be honest, I think if they had went up to 1A, they would have stayed there for a while. I think they're a good enough side. But from an historical point of view, I think Shannon, they've won the AIL more than anybody else. They've won it 9 times. It's a club full of history. Alan Quinlan, Mick Galway, Anthony Foley, all those guys that have played throughout the years. And I watched a bit of the highlights video of Shannon and Nace, and they did a lot of what they used to do back in the day, go through the forwards and score like that kind of grunt up front that you need. And guys like Kelvin Brown, Lee Nicholas, Sean McCarthy in the back row, Killian Deneen, Alan Flannery, Jake Flannery have all been outstanding this year for Shannon. And I think when you talk about tapering your performance to the right time, I think Shannon really did do that. Maybe there was points in the middle of the season where they weren't playing so well and they were maybe on the outskirts of the top 4. But I think they really came good at the right time. And that's a massive credit to them and their coaching team.
They really did. And then another side that will be in 1B next season is Banbridge after 24-0 victory over Navan. Do you think that's well deserved? Obviously, Banbridge did finish in 9th, Navan in 10th. And 2A, again, is going to be another difficult season, I think, for Navan if they're going to want to bounce back.
Yeah, to be honest, Navan, as I said to you before, they were kind of going through a period where they were getting promoted from division to division, and I just think they kind of have found where they're at now as a club for the moment anyway. But Bridge actually aren't a bad side. That's what I mean about 1B being so competitive. In 1A, you kind of see who the 2 worst teams were. But when I seen Banbridge play a couple of times, they were actually pretty good to watch. They're probably unlucky with some results, and they have some really good players there. I think David McCann's there, who captained Ireland under-20s a couple of years ago, and Rob Little as well from Munster. So, I think, Banbridge were a good side, so I didn't actually have many worries about them going down. I kind of was fairly confident that it was going to be Navan. But I think it's a really competitive division next year. You've got UCC coming down, you've got Buccaneers going up. Wesley will be really hungry to kind of, right the wrongs. Highfield, to be fair, they were running away with the league up until the halfway point. They looked really, really good, and I don't know what happened to them in the second half of the season. It just didn't go to plan for them, so you got to feel sorry for them as well. Nace really shocked me, to be honest, to get where they got. If someone had said to me at the start of the year, who's your tips for relegation, I probably would have said Navan and Nace. So, yeah, Nace were 9th, I think, when the whole thing got cut off because of COVID back in 2020. So, to get to where they got, finishing 4th, getting a place in the playoffs, and then making the final and beating the best team in the league in Wesley in the semi-final, I think a massive achievement for them. And big credit to Johnny Murphy. I spoke to him last week in the lead up to the final, and he's done a great job there. And I think he's brought in some of the young lads that he had with Newbridge in the last couple of years, and they're really, really good players. And I think, yeah, like massive credit to Mace. I think they were probably the surprise package this year in the league. And yeah, it's a really competitive division. I'd say definitely the most competitive out of all the divisions.
Yeah, definitely. And then going up then to 1B, Buccaneers with could it be the shock of the final after beating Queen's University. And Queen's, as you said earlier on, they were runaway leaders kind of midway through the season, and even up until the end, they were in fantastic form. I think just 2 or 3 losses all season. But when it came down to the final, Buccaneers did win just 18 points to 17.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, we were talking about this, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I was saying it didn't really matter where you finished in the top 4. Like, once you got there, you were in essentially a new competition, so you had to wipe the slate clean. And I suppose Queens and Wesley are probably the prime examples of that. Like, going into it, you probably would have said, oh, they're the best team by far, and they deserve to go up. But it really didn't matter in the end. And even Queens, like, I think they're a bit different to Wesley in the fact that they had, like, I think they scored 82 points in the semi-final or something like that.
Against Ballymena, I think it was 82-16 or 14.
Yeah, like, so 82-16 or whatever it was. Like, that makes you think, like, they're streets ahead. Like, they're going to breeze the final. When I seen that, I was like, it'd be no bother to them. And I was actually in the car heading back from the Greystones game. And my uncle said to me, he goes, who went up from 2A? And I said, I don't know, but Queens. Like, I didn't even look at the result. I just presumed like it was going to be Queens. And then I actually did look at my phone like an hour later, and I was like, Genie Mac, Buccaneers beat them. Like, I was kind of a bit shocked. So, like, Buccaneers are a really good side. Like, it's not me saying that I didn't expect Buccaneers to do it. I just thought the run of form that Queens were in, I just thought it was a foregone conclusion almost. So, yeah, look, I'd say they're good at, like, really, really good at, and they just have to kind of build themselves back up and go again next season, which can be difficult. Like, coaches can say that after finals, but it doesn't, it's still painful. Like, when you've been doing so well all season and it just didn't go right for you at the last hurdle, it is pretty hard. So they're going to have to find the resilience and kind of dig deep for next season.
Yeah, and it definitely does hurt, especially after beating Buccaneers on 2 occasions during the league campaign. And I suppose it is one of them things, and it is down to maybe the leaders in that group to get them back going and ready for 2A again next season. And another side that will be getting ready for 2A next season is Nina Ormond after 26-13 win over Rainey Old Boys. I think that could have gone anyway, kind of prior to the playoffs. Do you think Nina probably did deserve that over Rainey, and Rainey going down to what is another pack division in Division 2B?
Well, I'd have to be honest, I wouldn't really know a massive amount about that kind of end of the table in 2A. But yeah, I'd say it was a competitive game. They're kind of similar level as clubs. So yeah, it was probably just 2 big games, and whoever could do the best in the 2 games would probably survive. And that's probably what happened there.
Yeah, and Nina and Rainey, I think they drew that first game 17-all, so it was everything to play for in that second leg, but they did come out on top in the end. And then moving down to Division 2B, and it was...
Don't start, Luke. Don't start. I'm still sore here. I'm still hurt.
It was a very painful defeat, I think, for Greystones and maybe anyone associated with the club. Found themselves 17 points up with the good to 20-25 minutes to go, and a Matthew Dwan try in the 82nd minute won it for Blackrock and sealed promotion to Division 2A. And I know you were at the match, as was I, and kind of tell me from your view, what did you make of the game?
Well, people think I'm quite critical of Greystones because, a couple of months ago, I kind of was a bit, like, even though they were top of the table, I kind of had my reservations about, like, how they'd perform towards the end of the season. And it was probably more so because the teams that were all in the top 4, you look at them, Belfast Harlequins, Blackrock, and who's the other one? Corinthians, yeah. And Wanderers as well, I think they lost to, who were in the top 5. So they lost to all those teams in kind of the last few rounds of the competition. So it made me kind of think, like, were they gonna choke towards the end? And then that Corinthians game, I wasn't there, but I heard that they left it quite late to do the job.
Yeah, 77 minute, yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of going into that game, I was like, you know what? I'd love Greystones to do it. I really would. Like, I'm supposed to be kind of I'm supposed to be not biased, but like I really wanted Greystowns to do the job. Like I was really excited for them, but there was a thing in the back of my head, even when they were 23 up, there was a thing in the back of my head, like, I don't know, they just never really put away these big games comfortably. There's always more in it, like. And to be fair, like, I'm not trying to diss the ref here or anything, but if you've seen that kick through by Killian Marmion, and at the time, like, I wasn't even standing near the ball, I was like somewhere else, but I could see that it was a try. And now it turns out that somebody, one of the photographers, took a picture, and it was like, it's easy to say that would have won them the game, but at that point they were 23 up, and if they had got that try, that's at least 25-3. So they lost 25-23 in the end. So that, you know, that makes a difference, and that's just luck. Like, I'm not blaming the referee. Like, he's in a difficult position, and you know, sometimes they get it wrong. But in Greystowns, it proved quite crucial. Like, really.
Yeah, it really did, and I think that was Andrew Lynch's second try at the half as well. And I think from where I was looking, I kind of got shades of, I don't know if you remember that Stockdale try a couple of years ago when he just kept it in, but I've seen photos since, and it does look like he did get it down in time, and it is just such a painful way for Greystowns to lose. And do you think it'll be difficult for the likes of Kevin Lewis and Paul Lennon to pick the lads up and to go again?
No, I think they're used to this, to be honest. Like, the thing about Greystowns is, I think they probably are one of the best teams in 2B. I don't think that'll change. I think they'll be thereabouts next season. Like, I'm pretty confident in that, you know. Like, Killian Marmion, like, he's like so good. Like, it's like, he's everything about that Greystowns team. Like, he's just a brilliant player. And then even Dan Mannion, loads of experience at the back there. Like, at number 8, brilliant player. Like, he's really, really good, really, really solid. And I think Greystowns were excellent for 55 minutes probably in that game. Like, so it's tough for them. But I've seen some of the pictures of their court session on Sunday. So I don't think they were obviously they were disappointed, but I think they got over it pretty quick. So, you know, like, that's just rugby. And, you know, like, I think obviously the lads are going to be disappointed, but at the same time, they lost with their frames, and they lost, you know, they have people around them that can kind of lift them up, and they'll come again next season. I think they were just unlucky. Like, that referee decision proved vital, you know, that drop ball at the end, you know, there are things you can't really, that, you know, it's just luck, really. It's nothing else. Like, it's just, sometimes things go your way and sometimes things don't, and you just have to get on with it, really. But Greystowns is a great club. There's some great people involved there. So, like, I think they'll come again, and they'll probably be thereabouts in 2B again next season. And then there's this argument. Somebody was asking me, if Greystowns had won 2B, how would they have fared in 2A? Like, would it have been, you know, like, sometimes if they go up, it can be a tough season for them. But I actually think Greystowns would have done. I don't think there's a massive difference between 2B and 2A, to be honest. I think once you get up, they're kind of similar levels. Maybe a little lift, but I don't really think. Like, I think Greystowns would have done okay. I don't know if they would have got promoted to 1B or anything, but they would have done all right. So I think Blackrock, though, a big credit has to go to them, because they lifted the tempo. Like, when the game kind of looked gone from them, they really just went at Greystowns, and I think Greystowns were just tired. I think Rock just lifted the tempo, went straight at them, just threw the ball around, quick ball. The Greystowns were just tired, and they just kind of, it was almost like they hit a wall and they just couldn't give any more. So, yeah, look, massive credit to Blackrock. You can talk about Greystowns and how unlucky they were all day, but at the end of the day, Blackrock were the ones who got the job done, and massive credit to them.
And they really did. And one player that really stood out for me for the Blackrock side was Peter Quirk. And I thought he was a real, I think, like, he has to be in the same conversation that you'd mentioned Marmion and how he impacts the game. And I think he got a try and then maybe 13 or 14 points off the boot. And I think when you have a talisman like that playing it inside centre that can do it all, like, you're going to go far. And then a good group of players in the front or in the pack as well, like of Brian Colclough as well. And then moving down then to Division 2B at the relegation, Ballina did beat Galwegians 15 points to 3, but Wegians, they stay up after a 37-34 win on aggregate, putting Ballina down to Division 2C. And then coming up out of Division 2C is Enniscorthy after a good win over Skerries, 27 points to 14. And going down in Division 2C is City of Derry after losing 41-34 to Clonmel on aggregate. Ciaron, I think just finally, I'm just going to ask you a bit maybe about the structure of how the AIL played out. And do you think it was a popular decision to have that one up, one down, or would you like to see maybe a more classic feel to it?
I think you have to factor in COVID. Like, I know we got a kind of a normal season of sorts this year, but I think when the season started and even midway through the season, like we were still with new variants and stuff, you were still kind of, people were still kind of anxious would the season kind of be stopped or midway through. So I think that kind of, was factored in the decision making. So I think, some games like Shannon, for example, I think they had 1-0, maybe. I can't remember who it was against, but they only got 2 points for that. So like some teams like didn't get to fulfill games because someone got COVID or whatever. So I think that was kind of to help those clubs maybe a little bit. And yeah, look, I mean, it's tough. Like, it probably isn't the ideal situation, especially for the likes of Queens and Wesley, who were outstanding all year and probably deserve to be going up in the division. And like, it's, from their point of view, it's pretty tough, and it didn't suit them. But then you look at somebody like, I don't know, Naas, like a Blackrock, Naas, like two teams that kind of did well because of that situation. So there's pros to it and there's cons to it. Like, I think bar Clontarf, Enniscorthy were the only team that finished top and actually went on to win the league. So that kind of tells its own story,
Yeah, it really does. And Ciaron, it's been fantastic having you on again. And this will be the last time that we see you on the Rugby Show for this season, but we will be back for season 2. So, Ciaron, thank you once again.
I've really enjoyed it, and you're doing a fantastic job, Luke. Well done.
Cheers. Sadly, that's all we have time for this evening, and it brings a wrap to season 1 of the Rugby Show. A big thanks to all of our guests and viewers that have tuned in over the past few months, and a big thank you to producer Colleen Duffy. We'll be back for season 2 in September, but for now, goodbye.